Hello and welcome, this is rooflemonger. So fighting game characters, let's talk about them. From police officers who go up against beings from outworlds and other dimensions, to little schoolgirls who study in the art of sumo wrestling, to whatever the hell Gone was. I still don't know all these years later. But yeah, fighting game characters come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and they are pretty crazy in terms of how they fight and their backstories, and that's what this series is about, and that's what today's video is about, as we'll be talking about Ramlethal Valentine.
I declare war on all the world. All those unworthy to stand upon it will be destroyed. The future is the past.
Pretty heavy stuff, huh? So who is Ramlethal to make these kind of statements? Well, first up here, Ramlethal Valentine is from the Guilty Gear series of fighting games, specifically showing up in the Guilty Gear Exard series of fighting games, which is the third mainline Guilty Gear game, but it is pretty deep in the Guilty Gear numbers with how many revisions of X2 there was, right? Ramlethal is also a Valentine, and we'll get more in depth on that when we talk more about the story stuff. Guilty Gear has one of the more insane stories, period. Doesn't really matter if it's fighting games or not. It's very anime, and we'll talk about what a Valentine means later in the video. Now, as for Ramlethal herself, she doesn't have too much of a personality, although hey, she's learning, she's trying. Her personality develops over the course of the plot, and the one biggest thing I guess you could say is she's definitely, if you gotta say anything, a real big fan of hamburgers. So before we go into the details of the lore, let's talk about how she works in-game. In-game, she's kind of like a feral animal child in a lot of ways. A lot of like ripping and tearing with her hands, and just a lot of kind of all-out aggression without a lot of style per se. Not to say like, you know, her combos and stuff aren't stylish, right? But she's just very feral and aggressive, and I guess that's just the best way to put it. Even though she's a character without a lot of emotion, the big old shark teeth come out when she gets very excited or very sassy. But however, definitely her most noticeable trait is these two very large greatswords she has here. These are like, you know, almost out of Berserk or something. They're giant. Obviously, she herself is not wielding them. She has her little buddies do it for her. These greatswords are basically her whole game plan. So she's in essence, in a way, almost a stance character. So as you can see here with the swords beside her, she can use the swords pretty much all she wants, right? They're very good at having big normals, very large hitboxes, owning a large portion of the screen. You can do a lot with them, do a lot of damage with them, right? That's all well and that's all good. They just work and they work great. However, that's not the only thing they are capable of. Ramlethal can also deploy the swords, and they'll just stay on the screen here, the little buddy that's holding it, they'll just stay where they are, and they can hit the enemy with the sword, so she does not have to be anywhere near them. And yes, it does track, so if you take it to the corner, all of a sudden, they're in the corner, wherever the enemy is, that's where they will be. And they can also go for big swings too. In this specific example here, you get the big swing, you can even get a combo follow-up. She even has different super moves based on the fact if she's holding the swords or the swords are deployed. This giant laser only happens if you are holding the swords, and this follow-up here, a big ol' spin the wind kind of move here, only happens if the swords are both deployed. So it becomes a whole thing of, are you going to be harassing them with the deployed swords, or are you going to keep them on yourself and get your better normal attacks? And a lot of the depth of her gameplay comes from exactly that, you making those decisions. On top of that, Ramlethal also has a lot of target combos, and I mean a lot. Let's have a look here. So here they are, so you can see. So all these combination A, B, C, D, all that kind of stuff, that is all target combos. Now, in Guilty Gear, like many other anime fighting games, like Dragon Ball FighterZ or BlazBlue or whatever, the combo structure is a lot like, you know, A, B, C, you chain them all together, right? And Ramlethal doesn't really work that way. She's more like a Mortal Kombat character almost, thanks to all the target combos. She can't chain, but she can use her pre-built strings or target combos to get a combo together. Also to note on her appearance, her cape. So you might notice that cape's kind of alive looking, and I guess it is. It's got these big old shark teeth on them, and you can use it to attack as well. But yeah, they don't go over it too much. So in her intros, the cape barfs her out, like, bleh. There we go, slime and everything, right? So, yeah. I really got nothing else to tell you. That's just a fact of the character. I don't know if there's any deeper meaning behind it, but she has a flesh cape. Now, to talk about those little buddies there. So the little buddies are actually two halves of one whole. Lucy Farrow, who's kind of Ramlethal's buddy slash servant. Now here's the thing. This is not the first game where Lucifero shows up. Lucifero actually shows up in Guilty Gear 2 Overture. And Guilty Gear 2 is not the second Guilty Gear, because that's Guilty Gear XX/X2. It's a whole thing. So the Valentine concept shows up there first, and we'll get into it in a second. But yeah, Guilty Gear 2 Overture is like a weird Dynasty Warriors / MOBA before MOBAs were really a thing. And for good reason, it's one of the Guilty Gears we don't talk about. Now that all said, strap in, let's get to the lore of the story. Okay, so Ramlethal shows up and declares war on the world. Lots of other Guilty Gear stuff happened before that, but it doesn't matter because this is Ramlethal's introduction point. So she declares war. Well, how well does that go for her right after declaring war? Well, she immediately gets owned for free. Now, to be fair, it wasn't supposed to go that way, I guess. So here's Ram at the start, and Ramlethal's manhandling Saul bad guy, and Saul's very strong, so it's not nothing. So Ramlethal definitely is a strong character, but the problem is this. Elfelt Valentine, another playable character in Guilty Gear Xrd, shows up, and it turns out Elfelt is Ram's sister, and all Valentines can apparently cancel out the powers of all other Valentines. And thus, power getting turned off, whatever, she done get beat up. So that said, what is a Valentine? Okay, here we go. So a Valentine is a construct, although it's not necessarily like a robot kind of construct, like it could be a flesh automaton, whatever. It's a construct created by Mother. So who is Mother? Well, Mother is someone with a lot of plans, and the Valentines are the way to make those plans happen. So Mother sends Ramlethal to the Conclave, and the Conclave is like an order that's above the United Nations, effectively the Illuminati, if you will. So Mother sends the Valentine, Ramlethal, to the Conclave, so the Conclave can use Ramlethal to move forward their world domination scheme while pulling the strings of all the players and all the countries in the world, except the Conclave is being played by Mother, because Mother is more than just Mother. Mother is the Universal Will. So the Universal Will was made in the Backyard, which is a dimension above our dimension, like a higher dimension of being than our dimension. And the Sage, who went to the Backyard, who taught humanity magic, which came from the Backyard, created the Universal Will as a way to protect and guide humanity, except in like a big Skynet twist. The big thing is like the best way to protect humanity is to get rid of humanity. So the Universal Will is actually working towards getting rid of humanity, and the Valentines are one of the agents to help do that. I compressed so much there you have no idea. Maybe in the future before Strive comes out, I'll just make a giant video about the lore of Guilty Gear. I don't know. But yeah, so that is how Guilty Gear Xrd starts. Ramlethal says, I'm going to beat up the world, and then immediately gets dunked on. So Ramlethal's initial plan fails. The Conclave, whatever, Illuminati being Illuminati, haha, we got a million contingencies, doesn't matter. Ram, however, not taking it the best. Basically like, I'm just going to blow myself up and just take everyone out with me. Except once again, Elfelt's there, and Valentines can cancel out other Valentine's powers, so none of that actually happens. From that point onwards, it's basically, hey, Ramlethal, let me teach you how to be an awesome person with friendship and love and jokes and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? It basically worked. After enough, anime conversations about you should love stuff and be cool and like us and be friends with us and all that kind of stuff. And basically, one hamburger later, well, then it turns out, hey, it's all cool. I, Ramlethal, can now learn how to have emotions, to laugh and love and all that kind of stuff, slowly starting to get a personality. On that point, there's literally a friendship montage with a lot of dumb music, and I'll just let it play out for a second. Okay, so Ramlethal now went from being an automaton for Mother with no emotion, now has friends, you know, hanging out, all that kind of cool stuff. And then you gotta think, well, what happened to the Conclave, you know, the Illuminati people? What's their plan after Ramlethal failed? And turns out, hey, they're a bunch of idiots. So Mother, the Universal Will, who gave Ramlethal to the Conclave, is also working with someone called Bedman. And Bedman, hey, it's in the name. Bedman's literally a guy who fights in a giant robotic bed. Not gonna go past that. This isn't the video for it. It'll be here forever. But anyways, they're basically set up to fail. And the real plan is with Bedman, not the Conclave. Dummy Conclave do their next final stage of their plan, which is resurrecting Justice, who is a baddie in the older games and is now Godzilla-sized for some reason, which I never really fully got. And the whole plan goes to crap, so they lose, haha. And how much did Ramlethal actually matter in these plans? Well, just about to nothing, really. Ramlethal almost is inconsequential. Her whole thing as a bad guy was basically only a thing in the arcade version of Guilty Gear Xrd before the console version with the story mode came out. But don't worry, after Justice is beat, one more final. Turns out Elfelt was a double agent all along, never was there to help, and was waiting for Justice to go down before she could wreck everyone's faces. But here is the catch. So remember earlier on how Elfelt stopped Ramlethal because all Valentines can cancel out each other's powers of all other Valentines? Well, that's basically what happens here. And from there we get our nice, you know, what lesson did we learn today segment. And oh my god, I actually have feelings now and I want to save everyone and I'm gonna save you next. Except, well, he couldn't save her anyway. She gets captured by Mother. Mother is now ready to do her plan. And you know what? Just who is Mother? Just who is the Universal Will anyways? So turns out Mother, the Universal Will, is the Pope. So the Pope is the person who wants to destroy humanity. And on top of being the Pope, the Universal Will is also the Joker. And realizing mankind lives in a society, and that we all live in a society, that means, hey, humanity just has to be destroyed. And that wraps up Guilty Gear Xrd, which is the game that Ramlethal debuts in. Now there's Guilty Gear Revelator, which continues the story, and Ramlethal doesn't factor too much into that, but let's just go over the basics very quick. Game opens up with Ramlethal basically like, hey, you know, people are probably going to have some problems accepting me because all they know about me is I'm the person that said I declare war on the entire world, and that's basically it. And I exited stage left, and that's all people know who I am, right? And of course, the goodies know that something's up with the Pope / Ariels / the Universal Will / Mother, and Ramlethal is directly linked to that. Ramlethal's main goal at this point is just to get Elfelt back from Mother. To that point, the Universal Will / Mother / all these other names is basically causing some bad stuff around the world, and Ramlethal is dispatched out and turns out, hey, it's a trap, and Ramlethal, trying to save a kid, seemingly done get blown up. And that's basically Ramlethal in Guilty Gear Revelator as far as the story goes. So she tries to save the kid, gets blown up, I guess she's done, I guess she's out of the story. Poor Ramlethal, I guess that's the last we will see of her. She's definitely not gonna show up. She got blown up on the... she got blown up. That's it. She has to be dead, right? There's no possible way she could have survived this endgame scenario. Well, my friends, you know, I guess spoiler warning, but it turns out, hey, got blown up? Well, turns out... Yep, right during the final battle here, last possible minute save, Ramlethal comes up, does the thing, and saves the day so the goodies can help put down the Universal Will / Mother / the Pope / the Joker / Ariels. From that point, it's basically all's well that ends well for Ramlethal. starting off as an emotionless automaton that was ready to blow herself up at a moment's notice, to hey, friendship conquers all, and that's just plain lovely. And my friends, that is the ridiculous history of Ramlethal Valentine. Now, that is it for the plot right now, but Ramlethal will return. So, very recently, there was a trailer for Guilty Gear Strive, the upcoming Guilty Gear game, and Ramlethal is indeed in it. Perhaps a little bit of a surprise to some, and she's a little bit different. She has a new look, not too different, but it is different enough, and definitely her gameplay is a bit different, as it seems to know she can plant her swords in the ground, versus like planting them above your head, and who knows how that's going to work. But yeah, so Ramlethal's story will continue in the future, and what direction will it continue in? Hey, who knows? That all said, I guess that's the end of the video. So this is now the third one of these I've done here. I've also gone in depth on QB from Darkstalkers and Bridget, also from Guilty Gear. And if you want to see more, hey, let me know. But other than that, my friends, I guess we're done here. So hey, thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. Go out and play some fighting games.